Oh, wow. Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and today we're going to talk about an article that I found concerning 14 challenges to improve encounters. Now, mind you, on this channel, we talked a lot about that, but I found this by accident, and along with a whole bunch of other things we always segue into and get distracted by, I thought we would go over this list. But first, of course, I'm concerned about you guys. So please grab your snacks, put your feet up, sit back, relax, bring your brilliance here. We would love to have you here. And let's talk about this list of things that are probably missing in tabletop role-playing game encounters. And let's get into it. Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. Oops, can't even see my face. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. Yeah, there were some things happening in the background with my with my two producers, feline producers. I had to real quickly put that down. Yeah, yeah, it happens. Gotta take that bio break. Yeah. And also, I've just been fighting this head cold, which I apologize. So if it sounds like I'm a bit nasally, I apologize for that. Right up front. Okay, so I found this counter here. Oops, let me apply. Let's put this link in the chat as well. Let's see. There we go. Put this link in the chat by a person, Dawnfist, has a blog post, whatnot, and the challenges, like 14 challenges, and we're going to go over these and kind of like analyze it a little bit. I thought we would have some fun with this, because over here on this corner of the interwebs, we brilliant people kind of already know these things. But anyway, it says the 14 challenges in TTRPGs, all the tools in your toolbox. And with this blog post here over at Dawnfist, I am not familiar with this individual or group or what have you. So, of course, it says this will help you create better adventures. What is the purpose of this? Why the box is so important. We mentioned this the other day, where it's like, just imagine someone asking you to draw something cool versus draw a cat with a hat and sunglasses. Essentially, it's like, the more we confine our creativity, the greater engine it is to be creative, to get the heck outside that box. But anyway, let's go with these 14 challenges, and there are examples of these as well. So this individual says, after careful consideration and 20 years of game mastering, I've condensed it all down to these 14 challenge types. This is it. And I wonder if there's a way, like, could some of these been parsed out for more than 14? Is 14 too few? Don't know. So let's take a look at it. So we have a hostile NPC, blockage, environmental hazard, trap, puzzle or riddle, disease or curse, lost or hidden paths, protect or secure, mystery, survival, moral challenges, magical phenomenon, cultural or linguistic barrier, and political intrigue. And mind you, I think some of these are could be combined together, and some could be spread out, but I like the list. I think it's a good one to kind of consider when it comes to designing adventures or even simple encounters, or an overall view of your setting and what kind of challenges are faced in front of the player characters over time. Now, I will go down, allow me to page down. I'm going to come back to this list. But here we have examples of each one. There's 14 of them. And there's like, this individual puts 3 examples for each of these, like hostile NPCs, blockage, etc., etc., etc. I think some are more applicable or easier to implement than others. And of course, these are very classic fantasy versions of them. So let's go through them. All right, here we go. And first I want to see what you guys have to say. yeah. A little bit of both, right? I don't know if Dawnfist is the best day for a kung fu movie or yeah. I don't know. I would dare say that that one would be like a B movie and see it on an old Saturday morning, and the other one is something you pay $5.99 a month for yeah. Oh man. Anyway, all right, so hostile NPCs. Hostile NPCs do not necessarily mean monsters. So, of course, he says, without a doubt, the most common challenge at all tables. It's easy to throw a group of goblins to players or place a troll in a cave. However, the name of this challenge isn't combat, because combat is a means to solve a challenge. Combat isn't a challenge in itself. It's named hostile NPCs for a reason, to highlight the fact that as the GM, you are free to place dangerous NPCs as part of the scenario you are prepping, but don't force the players to fight them. And I think hostile NPCs can go a little further, meaning like they're not enemies of the player characters. They're just NPCs that are they are a barrier to doing something that PCs want. An example, I always pick on the city state with the walls around it, and maybe the players are like, nah, we want to get in or out the wall, and there's guards that are like, no, we're not opening up the doors for you. And they could have a perfectly logical or reasonable reason to not open up the gates for whatever reason, but the players need to get through those gates. So that makes that NPC hostile to the player character's intentions at that moment. Now, of course, there are NPCs that literally have their emotions on their shoulders, and they're like, I hate really cool badass adventurers, fold arms, pouty lip. But there's also the idea that the players are maybe part of an organization or group or a faction that might be playing it. We see this plenty of times, right? There's a group that wants to play it safe or has been traumatized too many times, and the hero is like, one more time, come on, we can do it one more time. And the group is like, hell no, we've gotten our ass beat too many times, we got too many people hurt, we've lost too many resources, our reputation is soiled because of your involvement. No, the answer is no. And so adding hostile NPCs, I think, is a good thing. I think that's because it's easy, I think. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, hell yeah. Spook says, Game of Thrones has plenty of good NPCs to throw against a party without direct violence. Exactly. And again, yeah, plenty of shit talkers. They sure do. Yeah, exactly. Says, how about a hostile NPCs who don't attack? They just think you're an asshole and talk shit. Exactly. Those are some of the best NPCs, because the players may like, of course, yeah, same difference, right? There's a lot of NPCs that are just like jealous, or they're rude, or now, mind you, there might be some NPCs that are actually friendly. They just have a different method of how to get things done. They're like, well, we can do this without violence, or we don't want to upset the nobility, or something like that. So, and hostile NPCs, that's one to throw in there. Okay, I like that one. Number 2 is blockage, a tried and true challenge type. Locked, blocked, or stuck doors are a staple in all TTRPGs, and there's no need to change that because they work. And I'm gonna have some problem with this one, and I'm sure this individual already thought about it. But this one says like a locked door in an ancient dungeon, a stuck door in an abandoned house, or a frozen waterfall blocking blocking a cave entrance. And the two things I can see implementing these incorrectly would be the adventure stops because of a blocked door. I think of this instead like we see video games do this, Legend of Zelda type, where there's a locked door, but there's also a clue on how to unlock the damn thing. And unlocking doesn't necessarily, like this person even puts down frozen waterfall blocking a cave entrance. It doesn't need to be a door, but there could be like, hey, we can't get across or through or past this thing. We need to talk to somebody to get us through. We need to find the key, and that key could be like a magical formula. It could be an actual golden key that goes into a lock. It could be a phrase, something like that. Something cool that's behind the wall or the door or the element, and to get it out of there, the players are. It's like the problem that persists in the back of the minds of the players, that they can come back to it. And I think that one's a little bit more rare than the actual, like, the door's locked. What are you going to do? I take my axe to it. It's like, well, you might not want to do that in this particular situation. So blockages. Now, blockage could be something that like crumbled or fell or what have you, but I do like the idea of that. Number 3 is an environmental. You guys know I'm big on environmental hazards. Number 3, environmental hazard. Environmental hazards are different from traps because they aren't created with the intention to hurt someone. They are just there. They are neutral. And this one says blizzard in the mountains, poisonous vapors in a dungeon, falling stalactites in a cavern. I absolutely love environmental hazards because they're neutral, and because the players, if they're smart, could flip it so it benefits themselves. So if the players are very careful around an avalanche, and then the mountain, the enemy comes towards them, and the players are like, who can make the loudest sounds to cause an avalanche to bury their enemies in it? I think that's kind of cool. Also, environmental hazards can kind of be the blockage of a thing temporarily to force the players to go, okay, do we want to actually go through the blizzard or the swamp, or I don't know, whatever the volcano is, there's lava pouring. Do we want to go across it, or do we want to go around it? And of course, adding in, come on, kitty. And of course, adding in environmental hazards in the midst of your classic combat is also a cool thing. With high winds, electrical storms, blinding sandstorms, meteors, or lava falling from the sky, and all those kind of things. I love environmental hazards, rock slides, and all that kind of stuff. So do I think that's missing from games? Yeah, I really do, especially implementing them in combat. But environmental hazards are also something, as we're going through these, something that struck me is that if you want to seed your world with telling the players what your amazing setting is like without giving them 50 pages of material to read, using these can get across what this world is like. We all know Dark Sun because Dark Sun has like the dust and the sand and the dehydration, and that lets the players know where they're at all times, and I like that. Number 4 are traps. Yeah, if you're going to lock a door, prepare to run with a lot of solutions you never expected from the party. Absolutely. Maybe that's something that we've lost, or is actually, well, I want to say lost, and is both making a comeback in how many OSR adjacent games there are, where it's like, you want to solve the problem, put the dice down and come up with a crazy cool creative solution to the thing, and then we'll just go with it from there, right? It's the one I've described before, where I remember running a game where I specifically thought I was going to overpower the players, and they were like, "No, the harpies that we can't reach with our weapons, we're going to lead them into the a narrow entrance where the portcullis is, and we're going to drop both portcullis gates down, trap the harpies in there, and then pour the flaming oil on top of them." And I was like, wait, what? Oh. And then, of course, I had to go with it, and I was like, yeah, this is kind of cool. Yeah, high winds rip weapon out of your hand, whip it into the air, deposit at least 500 meters away. Well, yeah. I don't know if the specificity of exactly 500 meters away is good, but I can imagine it happening, though. Spook says, I've always had good results with environmental hazards. Oh, that's cool. I don't think we have enough. Hey, you're invited up here. Come on, Bruce. Come on. I don't know if we have enough rules to include those. I don't know. I like the neutrality of the environment, and it doesn't necessarily need to be a natural environment. Like, any Assassin's Creed kind of a game would be amazing with the environment, with like rooftops and abandoned buildings and running on like angled ledges and things like that, where both the players and the NPCs have equal difficulty maneuvering around such an environment. Brutus is definitely an environmental hazard. I'm a little tiny person at the bottom of the screen. You can't see what he's doing, but yeah, you're a little hellion. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are. Okay. Traps. Deliberately placed to hurt or stop someone or something. This person says, my best advice when running traps is to make them obvious. Let the player character spot them, but don't tell them how they work. Traps are best used as something to solve rather than hidden in an unavoidable damage. I absolutely agree with this one. Mind you, guys, I haven't actually read deep into this article, but it came across my feed, and I was like, I absolutely agree with you see the trap. It's the proverbial there's a trap that's already sprung with like a dead body in it or something, and then it alerts the players that there's more of this ahead. And the reason why the hidden trap and springing it on your players doesn't work, it works extremely well in like novels or books or television, movies, but as a gaming effect, it doesn't, because it ends up becoming a satisfying to one side and unsatisfying to the other. So what I mean by that is you have a trap that's hidden, the players never see it, you don't let them know it's there, one of them springs the trap and hurts or kills them, and you as the game master go, you didn't see it, and you're satisfied and the players aren't. Or they, your proverbial passive perception, the players look around, they find the trap, and they get past the trap, and as a game master, dungeon master, you're disappointed and they're happy. And it's better if they know there's a trap somewhere, and they may even know what it's like. Indiana Jones, the opening of the very first Indiana Jones had an example of this, where there was a trap that was already sprung. You just didn't know how it activated and the intricacies of it and whatnot. And, here's like pit trap, tripwire, magical alarm. I also think instead of the classic dungeon trap, the Rube Goldberg traps with like the floors that tilt and the poison, the ceiling starts to come down, or the poisonous gases, or swinging pendulums and all. I mean, those are classics. Those are real classics. But I also feel like maybe we underuse traps that are maybe non-lethal in I'll say Civilization. Like the person who's trying to keep their artwork and artifacts from being stolen might have a trap that dumps, I don't know, paint on someone's head, or drops a cage around someone and sets off a bell that alerts security, or something like that, something that causes a loud scream, and there's a little fey creature that keeps screaming in a little box, and it's like, shut up, and the authorities arrive or something like that. Like, we don't really see like the trap used like an emergency alarm system or something of that nature. Also, traps could be just set up just by tribal people in the outskirts, bear traps, pit traps, things like that, set up to capture animals. And it just so happens that the players are around, or using the natural environment as a trap itself, like quicksand, or a thin layer of ice and snow that makes you fall into a pit, or something of that nature. Like the natural environment as a pit trap. Okay, number 5, puzzle or riddle. This is a pretty long list. Puzzles and riddles are, again, one of those things like the locked door, I feel. The examples here, they have an ancient script on a tomb door, a mysterious locked chest in a noble's house, or a riddle from a mystical guardian. I feel like puzzles and riddles are best if the players can take them with them, or like on a locked door, they may not know the answer, but they can go around and do other things while they try to analyze the puzzle or riddle. We see this a lot in as a seasonal thing that comes up, like, what are some really good puzzles or riddles? And I think the idea is to put the puzzle or riddle literally pasted on a door, and I think it's better on like a sheet of paper, or like invisible ink, or someone's tattoo, or a mysterious sage says this to one of the players. Maybe they hear it in their dreams or whatever, and they're able to carry it with them and then solve it later on, maybe with clues through the adventure or people they talk to or something like that. Next one is disease and curse. Home Alone dungeon. Yeah. That was so funny. Oh, that's cool. I see it. Yeah, flying a ship through a crystal canyon. I like that. Shai says, good point about traps. Yeah, what would Andrew do? Had a big thing about that. How to use traps without making players mess up the game by going on constant search mode. That is a classic from the OSR, the 10-foot pole idea, of the players slowing the game pace down so much that they're like, I'm gonna tap every single 10-foot square with a 10-foot pole, blah blah blah. And that's why random encounters happened so often, because it was the players had to balance time as a resource. Do we want to speed run through the dungeon and probably die, or do we want to take all the time in the world and die from all the random things that are coming around? They're like, all the monsters in the dungeon are like, who keeps tapping on the floors and walls and ceiling? Shut up. Yeah, if you really want to make the party paranoid, only have one trap with a dead body in it. That is literally the only trap in the dungeon. Yeah, exactly. And mind you, that's hilarious. But also, context matters, right? Are there monsters or adversaries out there that are going to reset that trap pretty soon? Because it could have gone off 10 minutes ago. How well does the trap even work? Something I liked in the Saw movies is that every once in a while the traps kind of didn't work exactly as designed. That sometimes people would be half in, half out of a trap, or something like that. So yeah, you could have like a pit trap where it's two swinging doors, but only one door opens up the bottom. The other one freezes halfway, so the player can kind of hang on with their fingertips, and there's spikes down there or something like that. Halopia says, when then force them narratively to race. If you have no time to stop the end of the world, you will run through a minefield. Yeah. Like, it depends on, right? Like, what's the time as a resource, I think, is underserved in role-playing games. And it's like, okay, you only have 10 minutes to do this thing, and it is going to take you 30 minutes to search the room. Which one thing are you going to do quickly now, right? And it is true that if you're trying to stop the end of the world and everybody dies, you probably going to take that speed run through the minefield. And mind you, using one more than the other is also bad too, because if you're always speed running adventures, the players will learn never to stop and smell the roses, right? They won't stop to read the puzzle on the wall because they don't have time for that. Spook says, I took the Legend of Zelda puzzle where the door only opens if you're not looking at it. I had a giant Medusa statue with a door-sized shield that slid open or closed. The party just picked it open. And mind you, like, when I mentioned like Legend of Zelda, it's like there's some video games that are, it doesn't have to be Legend of Zelda, that are like puzzle games where you need the orange key to get to the orange hallway, right? Or in order to get to the top of the thing, we can't leap up there, but we have to pull the handle down to flood the shaft to swim up to the top and things like that. And we really don't see too many games that have rules for like flooding the room, or moving the heavy block to it in place, or hey, we found 6 wooden pegs, where do they go? And then you find a wall with like holes in it, and someone's like, oh, each of us is going to have to take a peg and put it in a wall and climb up like a ladder, but the person at the bottom's got to pass the bottom peg all the way up to the top person. And we don't see that. Yeah, Shai says, how many traps that straight up don't work because the dungeon boss was trying to get creative? Yeah, making Rube Goldberg contractions that can't possibly work right. Yeah, exactly. The players are like, oh no, the giant boulder's rolling towards us, and it got stuck. They're like, yeah, I almost pissed my pants, but the giant rolling ball just stuck. Oh man, yeah. Okay, here we go. Disease or curse. It doesn't always have to be a small village in the woods that's plagued by a mysterious disease. It could also be the PCs that catch a horrible disease, requiring them to seek aid from an evil hag. It's a great challenge. And here it is, of course, plague in a small village, curse of eternal sleep in a royal family, lycanthropy affecting a party member, disease and curse. I think these are good motivations. Players being cursed or diseased, you really only have like one good shot to do that. Especially, and this one person has 10 fantasy curses and how to break them. I think this works better on a community, or like the players can't get what they want until they do an exchange, or a type of actually, here's Brutus is here, by the way. Dead, falling asleep. Thank you there, kitty. But yeah, sometimes there is this idea that that you kind of don't want to disease your players, because there's nothing fun about being sick. I can feel that right now in in my sinuses and whatnot. But yeah, stopping a curse or knowing that something's going to get worse as the players move on. This is Hoy mentioned this in a sense of like, if a disease or curse is going to make the adventure worse, then maybe they need to speed run to hurry up and solve the thing, because maybe there's going to be more undead, or more people under the spell of hypnosis, or the curse is going to start to turn more and more people into monstrous beasts. And it's like, oh yeah, we can fight 3 or 4 of them, but if the whole community of 87 people turns, we're in trouble. The the Alien franchise is a perfect example of like all the chest bursters, and it's like, yeah, we don't want to. We don't. First of all, stop looking straight into all those alien eggs, right? And then second of all, it's like, uh, face when our crew starts to get face hugged, how about the rest of us not try to get face hugged as well? Because, and then of course the tension in the movie is, our main protagonist turn a corner and they see 567 people with face huggers that have fallen off, and all of a sudden their rib cages start flexing and turning, and I don't know, using a backlight, you can see the little um embryo xenomorphs, and it's like, oh shit, we need to get the hell out of here. So that's a good one. We're halfway through. Okay, lost or hidden paths. Finding secret doors in castles, hidden forest paths, or caves behind waterfalls is always satisfying for players. This is an atrophied reward for players engaged in your setting. So this is the kind of thing where it's like, stop rolling the dice, tell me what you're doing, look for the secret door, look for the secret doors and concealed doors. Basically the same thing, but in ye olden days, we used to have two separate things. One was called secret, one was called hidden. And a concealed or hidden door was like a door behind a tapestry, a door behind a wardrobe, a door hidden, a hidden passageway into the tomb because of vines that grew over it and whatnot. And a lot of times this was a reward so you could bypass some of the other dangers if you just poked around and looked around and engaged in the setting. Also, I think lost or hidden paths could be gained through questioning NPCs, buying, selling, trading, and someone says, "Hey, I've got a piece of information for you if you're willing to give up a couple of copper." And then the player's like, "Oh, there is a wormhole, secret door, a map that leads us through the woods or whatever." And they say that there's no way to get through the thick swamp, but there is a way that you can walk on these hidden stones that keep you from sinking down into the swamp waters if you just follow the pathway or something like that. And so I think this is kind of a reward, more than a little bit of lost or hidden paths, and could lead you to maybe like finding that helmet that lets you water breathe, or that tribe that has that special concoction that tastes really bad, but if you drink it, it gives you immunity to acid or acid damage or something like that. Let's see what you guys have to say. Yeah, Drew says, I liked how the show Agatha All Along handled the challenges, each clear when the start with a clear time frame, thus neatly contained encounter. I agree with you on that one too. We don't see a lot of, I would dare say, like, the Agatha All Along was similar to the Saw movies, in the sense like, and I don't mean that like sarcastically. I mean, presented in front of us like in Agatha All Along was a challenge that the entire coven had to overcome in different ways. Was it singing a song? Was it all of us holding each other's hand one at a time? Was it drinking the concoction and giving up a secret to the magical thing? Whatever the case might be. And we don't really see a lot of that. Like, one player must be on one side of the room to put their hand into the dark hole and grab the lever, turning the lever simultaneously while a player on the other side reaches up to the ceiling and pushes up. Don't see that. Oh shit, yeah. Worst janitor gig in the universe is any alien setting. Yep. Yeah, why is there goo on the ground? That's what tapestries are for. Yep. But I do agree with you there, Drew, about the Agatha All Along thing. There aren't very many rules or hints or ways to design those kind of things any longer. Hazard pay is a bitch. Yeah. Z. Oh shit, I love it. Your secret, concealed, hidden doors put the players in constant search mode, so they start tapping around with their poles and thus trigger all the traps. Yep. That's where I guess some people call it like Gygaxian design, where the dungeon is an ecology in and of itself. So you need the 10-foot pole to poke around, but doing that too much sets off the shriekers. The shrieker mushrooms draw more monsters, which you don't want to have happen. If you listen at doors, it lets you listen and see what's on the other side. But then there's a monster. It was like the earworm or earwig or something like that that would go into your ear if you listened at doors. There were rot grubs. If you poked around in dead bodies to loot the dead bodies, the rot grubs would jump into your arm and body and burrow towards your heart. You guys are so funny. Hazard pays a bitch. Yeah, that franchise. Oh my god. All right. Here we have number 8: protect or secure. There are many things that could need protection: a sage performing a ritual, a chest full of coin being transported to the Baron, or a village from the invading orcs. Secure can also mean steal the documents from the captain's cabin. Interpret and use these challenge types creatively for best effect. And here's some examples: guarding a sage performing a ritual, escorting a diplomat through hostile territory, and securely delivering a high-risk prisoner. Yeah, not often, and very few rules for this as well. I like to protect and secure because it might mean the players have to divvy up their actions to use an action to protect or secure the thing that they're trying to protect, which means like going into straight up roll initiative, I want to punch the thing in the throat, might not be the most optimal form of action. It's like we've seen this plenty of times in the Secret Service protecting a diplomat or president action movie, where we are distraught because our hero has to decide: do I go after the bad guy who's running away, or do I stand and cover the body of the important diplomat or president or prime minister who's being shot at by snipers or an automatic weapon or something like that? And I think the hard choice of deciding to do one thing or another, or splitting actions, I think is actually a really good thing. Also, protect and secure can kind of get around the proverbial dungeon delving thing, where it's like, no, you're, instead of going in the dungeon to get the magic sword, maybe the important dignitaries you're protecting will get you that magic sword or make it for you, but you have to do this thing first to earn it. And so, instead of getting the magic items off the dead bodies, maybe it's like, no, you'll get the Holy Avenger sword after you've accomplished this goal. And that is like protecting somebody performing a ritual, or protecting normies from things, I think is also a good thing for the protect and serve. Protecting a person, place, or thing from damage or destruction as well. But Shadow Dark uses that to where it's called protect the light. So in Shadow Dark, no one really has any ability to see in the dark, but monsters will go after the light itself. So players have to decide, okay, do I want to hit the ogre, or do I want to keep the torch out of the hands of the slug beetles that are trying to climb up my body to get the torch out of my hand? Here we have number 9, which is mystery. Who doesn't love a great murder mystery? Similar to riddles and puzzles, these type of challenges can sometimes feel weird in the sense that they challenge the player more than the character. I agree. So make sure you build in clues and hints. Something else about mystery that is a good way to do it, if because it's very difficult to write a mystery, and it's even more difficult to do it on the fly, and that is give the player the answer to the mystery, but the rest of the society doesn't know the answer to it. So the players know, but the rest of the world does not know. And this one talks about examples like disappearance of a local blacksmith, strange lights in ancient ruins, or a series of thefts at a high-end bazaar. And I think with mystery, uncovering the why a thing happened, and also getting the bare bones of the mystery, but not like the players may go, okay, we know the blacksmith disappeared into the sewer. They just don't know what's down in the sewer or why the person got dragged down in there. And so therefore the mystery can continue to unfold while the players are taking actions rather than sitting still. Sometimes you don't want your players sitting in libraries all game long trying to uncover a mystery about a thing. Survival, that's a very common one and useful. I suck at running mysteries so badly. Me too. Me too. And I know why. It's so difficult because you either have really smart players that figure it out immediately, right? And it's like, wait, what? This was supposed to be difficult. And they're like, isn't that the plot of this movie that I saw 2 years ago? And you're like, damn it. Hoy says it could also be a simple village if you need the artifact in the middle of the breeding ground of the kobolds. It gets fast nasty without a plan. Yeah, like maybe the artifact needs to be taken from one place to another, or it was stolen a millennium ago and actually belongs to somebody else, and the players are like, oh, they're trying to get it back. Or dare I say, back in the olden days from the OSR, the human lands were taken. The goodly lands were taken over by the bad guys. So the dungeon delving was going back to places that belonged to humanity. It wasn't kicking down innocent people's doors and taking their stuff. It was more, it was actually getting back the stuff that belonged to humanity in the first place. Shai says, doesn't a mystery scenario necessarily have to be too railroady? Not okay. So the simple answer would be yes. It can get kind of railroady, but it doesn't have to be, right? So, you are silly as hell, kitty. You are silly as hell. Let's see if you're upside down. You're like Play-Doh. Are you licking my pit? Well, you know what? If you do that too often, I'm gonna lick you back. Yeah. Purr. You're so silly. No seeing it in the dark equals essential any self-respecting dungeon scenario. How about traps that only go for the eyes of PCs with infravision? I thought about that. I always wondered how come not necessarily traps, but I always wondered, like, why aren't there things down in the deep dungeon that are infravision attuned? Like you said, like the monster doesn't go after you unless you can see it with the infravision. Or why aren't there things like, why aren't there monsters that are down? Why aren't there monsters that have something that blinds infravision, right? If you're using it, it blinds you. Because wouldn't if we're talking about Gygaxian, not biology, Gygaxian, I guess biology or whatever, that why wouldn't there be monsters that would stop infravision? And why isn't there anything that does stop it? Like, why isn't there like a smoke or a chemical or a weird facet of a crystal or a light or a mirror that blinds infravision? I don't know. Or blinds those using infravision. Okay, so we're at number 10. Here we have survival. This person says, Dawnfist says, here I mean survival as in survival gaming, finding food, water, shelter, and withstanding harsh weather, etc. Not as in you are attacked by 3 dragons, how do you survive? And I get that, right? Like crossing the dry wastes, stranded on a remote island, securing a campsite in winter, and there's lots of players that don't like survival games because it's resource management. And a lot of indie gamers, and a lot of us, to be honest with you, do you really need to count every calorie? No. But there are mechanical, dare I say, gamist ways to basically have survival. And I think you could even insert it into high adventure games by saying, like, listen, if you're going to go into the deep swamp or the accursed desert, haha, I haven't said accursed desert in a long time, or the Five Kings Mountain or whatever, let everyone know you're going to have to mark off one resource or one ration or what have you, or even here's the simplest rule that I'm surprised isn't used in a lot of like fantasy games, and that is, in order to rest, you must have shelter, which means players have to create shelter or find shelter, and you can't recover unless you consume rations or nutrients, rations, whatever. And that simple rule itself can lend itself to players proactively resource managing. Like, okay, everybody, do we have at least 3 rations? Yes. Okay. Are there 2 of us that can make shelter? Yes. Now, I get it. I know. Leomund's tiny hut spell, Goodberry spell. I know. It makes that stuff disappear, but whatever. Here we have number 11, moral challenges. This is difficult to do because too often we already know in our own mind. Thank you. Lickety lick my fingers. I appreciate that. You gonna do that? I'm gonna lick you back. Yeah. Oh. Moral challenges. This one's difficult because a lot of time we can't help but lay our own ethics or morality in a moral situation rather than leaving it open to interpretation. The Last of Us franchise, video game franchise, and now HBO series delves into the moral challenges, and a lot of times it's just about personal perception, right? And this one says, a challenge that's sadly way too rare in most adventures. Moral dilemmas are a great way to adapt to add depth to any scenario. Ooh. Clearing out a mine full of angry kobolds is very simplistic, but if you give the kobolds fair reason for being in the mine, then you've changed it into a really interesting scenario. And this one says, like, choose to save villagers or pursue the villain, like one or the other, which I mentioned before. Decision to keep or return stolen treasure, or dilemma with a captured enemy sought by local NPCs. And again, are there some players that are just basically sociopaths and they could care less? Sure. But the decision, there might not be any good decision, and that's where you kind of don't want to overdo the moral dilemma, because then it always feels like it's always a gotcha for the players, right? It's like, well, we don't want to kill the pregnant and children orcs, and then it's like, haha, they came back to hurt you. It's just like, well, then are you suggesting that we shouldn't kill them? Well, it's like, no, you shouldn't have. And it's like, well, which one is it? But yeah. Magical phenomena, number 12. And magic is your classic magic thing, right? And of course it applies to science, or at least unknown sciences as well, like wild magic in a zone in a forest, time loop in an ancient temple, which I actually played a time loop game that was really fun, and ghostly apparitions in an abandoned village. The most fun I ever had in a time loop was in a game where I played with friends in our group, and we were literally fighting an enemy that was kicking our ass, and the time loop kept happening over and over again. And come to find out that a prior adventuring group had cast this time loop spell to defeat the bad guy, and the bad guy couldn't get out of the time loop but kept winning, and we kept losing, and we had to figure out through the adventure, like through the battle, oh, this is the villain's weaknesses. And of course, dying over and over again kept meaning that we kept learning something more and more about it and stuff like that. It was kind of cool. Difficult to do. That one was a little bit difficult to do, but we always see magic and things like that. And as we get closer to the end, cultural or linguistic barrier. I'm not a big fan of languages being a thing, because I think not knowing a language is not worth the squeeze of the misinterpretations. But I like cultural barriers, right? Like here's negotiating with the tribe speaking in an unknown language, deciphering ancient inscriptions in a foreign temple, or interacting with the city with strict social customs. And for me, it's this last one that I think is the bread and butter of the cultural or linguistic barrier, and that is like where we get to shine the light on different things. Like, for example, maybe there is a city that has strict gender social restrictions, but the players don't adhere to those, and so now they have to navigate that. Or it's the NPCs that are like allies, except for, and it might be something cultural that's different, or the players have to like it could be something I've brought this up before, where the players go into a city and there are people handing them these blue scarves, and the players don't know why. And when a player goes, "I'm not wearing that blue scarf," and then suddenly the authorities start harassing them for not wearing the blue scarf on this particular festival day, right? And it's like, well, what was that about? Yeah, little things like that. And so I like cultural barriers where the players learn a new thing, and maybe that even becomes like a mechanical reward if they learn something from the culture. And especially if you want to lore dump on your players, a good way to do that is through culture. Like, oh, almost everyone here wears these like very intricately, brocade vests or cloaks or something that's known to come from the South. So whenever the players again find someone where there's this cloak which has this intricate edging on it, they're like, oh, they're from the South. That means they know fire magic, and they have hypnotism, and they're known assassins, or whatever the case might be. Lastly, we have political intrigue, and then I'll get back to your comments. Political intrigue. This can be anything from infiltrating a royal ball to solve murder mystery, to negotiating with the Baron to secure that soldiers are sent to defend the village from invading orcs. And the three examples here are a village council dispute over land rights, secret alliance negotiations, and city on brink of rebellion. And yeah, political intrigue, I think it's easier to introduce more than a little bit. For me, I think the political intrigue is where, if you don't want to have black and white murderous orcs and goblinoids, but you still, the argument about people who are like, why can't we just kill the orcs and goblins, is the same reason about why can't we kill and murder kill the humans in our fantasy world, right? It's like, there's plenty of reasons to murder kill human beings in fantasy world because of their allegiances, their motivations, their all that kind of stuff, right? But it's like just give them they probably have a different motivation. Just give them a different motivation or political stance or something like that. Here we go back to your comments here. Drew says, I certainly don't like survival gaming exactly because I don't like resource management. Yeah. Well, and it depends on how detailed it is, right? If you're just counting like 1, 2, 3, I think most people don't mind that. Or there's an incentive for resource management, and it's more of a carrot than a stick, right? It's like, oh, I want to record this thing because it benefits me rather than it just punishing me. And survival games are generally tend to be punishing. So Gygaxian biology equals Catoplebus at a dungeon entrance creates piles of bodies for the gelatinous cube to skeletonize, for the necromancer to animate, and a pile of swords and armor for the rust monster to eat. Well, there you go. There's your biology at the entrance of the adventure. Yeah, before you go in the dungeon, guess what? You're like, well, what do the monsters eat? This dungeon is stupid. And you're like, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. I like that. I'm happy that you created that on the fly, because I wouldn't have been able to come up with that. Yep. Goodberry, the nuke from orbit option on resource management. Sure is. Drew says, mystery is also not my favorite, but I have players tell me they like how I do them as a GM. Well, maybe that's your, what is it? The three pillars of work, which is what you're good at, what benefits others, and what benefits you. And maybe you're really good at it, even though you don't particularly like it. I even designed for my home Heartbleed system how to do them without a GM, so I would say they can be done without railroading. And there are many games that have mystery elements, but they're mechanized. Like the one I'm using is when you engage in the game, you earn discoveries, and those discoveries lead to clues, and they are undefined. So yeah, I have mystery in my game as well. More science fiction, but kobolds steal mining robots. Kobolds hollow out said robots to use as power armor. Well, yeah, I mean, like they do, right? Kobolds are only defending themselves from monsters. Party convinces kobolds to sell designs for a fortune. Yep. Yeah. Oh man, Shice got strict social customs equals you offend everybody all the time by accident, just like I do in real life. Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, a more conservative styled culture, there tends to be lots of accidental offenses, almost as if the culture itself has designed the offenses to always lead you in the darkest place. I would dare say, if you watch the televised show, it aired here on Hulu. I'm sorry, it aired here in the States on FX, which is connected to Hulu. But if you see Shogun and the fictionalized version of Japan, which, mind you, the book that it's based on was written about the real Japan, but whatever the case might be, it runs very parallel to real Japanese history, and in it has a extremely tight, strict cultural thing that seems so alien to the people that came from the West. And I think that's probably the best example of like Japanese culture rubbing the friction of non-ancient feudal Japan, and how the misinterpretations, the miscommunication, the how easy it is to offend people and things like that. Hell, even shaking hands versus bowing is a cultural difference. Drew says language barrier can exist even with all parties speaking the same language. I agree. Miscommunication is for a reason, a classical trope in plenty of fiction. Yeah, yes. When so, Shakespeare played with that a lot. Which is actually true. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, Shakespeare played with a lot of language, tripping over words and language. Or how many times have we seen melodramas in modern day where a character overhears a conversation and misinterprets it, or overhears a phone call, or sees a text message or a half-written note and misinterprets it. Some cultures also have clothing as identification. Yep. Example: the wedding ring or the uniforms of soldiers with their bling. I absolutely hear you there, Hoy. And sometimes it's like you said, like which gender is allowed to wear a certain thing, which profession wears a certain thing. Sometimes it can be with jewelry or like badges, medallions. Like you said, wedding rings and soldiers' uniforms absolutely fit into that category. The materials that people wear, usually poorer people wear more utilitarian fabrics, whereas like rich people can wear things like dyed silks and things of that nature. So absolutely. Overpopulation. Perfect balance. Like I said in the beginning, the list misses herding cats, by which I mean challenges the players set themselves, not just the reactive stuff we got here. Yeah, and you know, making a list like this, of course, is very can be very generalized. But I found it, and I was like, hey, let's talk about it. Um, this is a vote of which of the 14 challenge types are used the most, and then closing thoughts, and then the list down here. Hostile NPCs, blockage, environmental hazard, trap, puzzle or riddle, disease or curse, lost or hidden paths, protect or secure, mystery, survival, moral challenges, magical phenomenon, cultural or linguistic barrier, political intrigue. And mind you, this list tends to fall very much into the dungeon delving kind of overland travel fantasy, but there are things missing in here, like um, on a personal level, like whether now, let it be said, all of these can be tagged with player characters' personal um, events or agendas and stuff. But yeah, I agree with you there, guy. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for letting me show this to you. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna have to get out of here pretty soon. I thank you very much for being here. I tend to go a little bit late, and I'm gonna make a concerted effort not to go very late in these sessions. So, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Hoy says, in old Europe, a long time, women were not allowed to wear pants. Yep. Simple reason girls were protected more in an identification emergency. Boys in the army, girls in a warm home. Yep. Well, and there were other things too. Like I remember there was a moment where, at a period in history, where men wore a lot of pink because pink was thought of as to be the closest color related to blood, which was red. Things like that. Rolling blackout in Greece only lasted 5 minutes. Oh, anyway, later, guys. Guys, have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Got to get out of here. Yeah, happy hump day. Or